for these first three problems here, there's going to be one question on the test like that. You're going to use the discriminant, which is the b squared minus 4ac. So it's what's underneath the root of your quadratic. So we're going to use that to figure out how many solutions and what kind of solutions I have. We have to get everything to one side first, so I'm going to minus 17 on both sides. So I get x squared plus 4x minus 17 equals 0. So my a is 1, my b is 4, and my c is negative 17. And I'm going to plug it into my discriminant. 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 17. And I'm going to type it in my calculator, and I get 84. So if I have a positive number, that means I have two solutions, and they are real. So a positive number means two solutions, and they're real. Okay, number 2. Same thing. You have to get it equal to 0, so I'm going to add the 2. So I have 2x squared plus 4x plus 2 equals 0. So my a is 2, my b is 4, my c is 2. And I'm going to plug it in the discriminant. 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 2.
Is it supposed to be 2 and 2?
Oh, 2 and 2. Yes, thank you. Sorry. 2 and 2. Type it in the calculator and you get 0. So when your discriminant equals 0, you are only going to have one solution, and it's real. So when your discriminant is 0, you have one solution, and it's real. If it's negative. So if it's negative, that's when it's going to be imaginary. So number 3 is going to be like that. Number 3, everything is already to one side. A is 2, B is 1, C is 1. And so when you plug it in, 1 squared minus 4 times 2 times 1. So that gives you negative 7. Oops. Ignore that. Sorry. All right, so if your discriminant is negative, that's when you're going to get the imaginary solutions. So you can write 2 imaginary. Right? You have 2 imaginary solutions or 0 real solutions. So 2 imaginary and 0 real, those are the same thing. So I would accept either one of those answers. No, because I'm going to do the whole thing. All right.
Why is it real or imaginary?
It's either 2 imaginary or 0 real.
So it only has one solution and it's 0, right?
Yeah.
Wait, you're not doing the whole thing now, are you?
Yeah, I'm going to do the whole thing now. All right, 4, 5, and 6. So 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to use the quadratic formula. You are going to have 2 of these questions on your test. The quadratic formula, which you need to have memorized, negative b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a. All right, so on this one, a is 2, b is negative 4, c is 3. And I'm sorry the paper is so small, write tiny. All right, so x equals, since b is already negative, when you plug it into negative b, it turns positive. So positive 4 plus or minus negative 4 squared. Make sure you use parentheses or you will get that wrong. Minus 4 times 2 times 3, all over 2 times 2. You're going to type everything underneath the root into the calculator. 4 plus or minus, I get negative 8 over 4. The negative, I can pull that out and turn it into an I. And then it's divided by 4. The 8 I can break down So I'm going to break down the 8 right here. 2 and 4. 2 and 2. So I can rewrite this guy. Pair goes on the outside. Leftover goes on the inside. So I can rewrite this as 4 plus or minus 2i square root of 2 over 4. And then all of these numbers out here, those 3 numbers on the outside, since you can divide all 3 of those by 2, we're going to go ahead and do that and reduce 2 plus or minus 1i, which is understood as just I. Don't mess with the root. The root stays alone. The inside guy, you can't do anything with it. And then over 2. And that's your final answer on that one. Okay. Number 5. All right, number 5. A is 3, B is 2, C is negative 4. So negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 4 all over 2 times 3. Type everything underneath the root. And you get 52. All right, 52. We're going to try to break it down. It breaks down to 4 and 13, and 4 breaks down to, ooh, I'm running out of space, sorry, 2 and 2. So 2's go on the outside, 13 stays on the inside. Negative 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 13 over 6. And then just like the last one, those outside numbers, since you can divide them all by 2, we're going to do that. Negative 1 plus or minus square root of 13 over 3. Shh. All right, last one for the quadratics. A is 10, B is 7, C is 4. So x equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root. 7 squared minus 4 times 10 times 4 all over 2 times 10. Type it in the calculator. Type in the calculator and you get negative 111. 111 does not break down, so the only thing that you have to do on this one is to take the I out. And then that's the final answer. Thank you. All right, y'all good on that one? All right, 7 and 8. You are going to have 2 of these problems. These are your only 2 free response, which means they're not multiple choice. And these are also non-calculator. All right, so these are the only 2 that are not multiple choice, and then they are also part of the non-calculator section. All right, so we're solving a system, which means our solutions are going to be ordered pairs. So I'm first going to set them equal to each other. X squared minus x minus 4 equals 5x minus 12. And then you're going to move everything to one side. So minus 5x plus 12 minus 5x plus 12. X squared minus 6x plus 8 equals 0 after you combine all the like terms. You have 2 questions on your test. They're the free response questions, and it's non-calculator. Hi, Nathaniel.
I'm here to work with your question on the project.
Okay. All right, so we move everything to one side, and then you're going to factor. So I want two numbers that multiply to give me 8, but add to give me -6. -4 and -2. Shh, Quaterion. -4 and -2. So when I solve these for x, my two x values are 4 and 2. So when I'm talking about my solutions, I know my two x values are going to be 4 and 2. The only thing left that I need to solve for are the y's. So I'm going to take my two x values, I'm going to plug it back into the linears because that's going to be the easiest. 5 times 4 minus 12, 8. So the y value for that guy is 8. And then 5 times 2 minus 12, -2. So the y value there is -2. Bless you. All right, next one. Once again, set these guys equal to each other. -x squared plus 5x minus 1 equals x plus 2. Now, I always like my x squared to be positive, so I'm going to move all three of these guys to the other side. So I'm going to add x squared minus 5x and plus 1. All right, so you do the opposite to move it to the other side. So add x squared minus 5x plus 1. So all of those guys go away. I don't have any other x squareds, so I'm going to write x squared here. X minus 5x, -4x, and 2 plus 1, 3. All right, does that make sense? They're both positive. 2 plus 1. All right, so I can do my little x. Multiplies to give me 3, adds to give me -4. So -3 and -1. So I have x minus 3, x minus 1. So for my solutions, I know that one of my x values is going to be 3, and I know the other one is going to be 1. And I just have to go back here and plug it in. So 3 plus 2 is 5. So this y value is going to be 5. And then plug 1 in, 1 plus 2, which is 3. So the other y value is going to be 3. All right. Moving on to the next section. You are going to have 2 problems of these guys on your test. And they're super easy. All you have to do is plug them in the calculator. Alright, so I'm going to go to my calculator, and all you have to do is type them in. Make sure you type them in exactly as you see them, though. -x plus 3, and then press tab. 1 over 2 x squared minus 1. And you get your functions. Since this is a system, I'm trying to find where they intersect. So I'm going to go to Menu, Analyze Your Graph, Intersection, and Highlight. So one of my intersections is at 2, 1. Do it again for the other intersection up here. And that's at -4, 7. I don't care if you graph it. Your test is multiple choice, so you're not going to have to graph it. All right, for the next one, I'm going to clear it, so doc B. I'm going to do the same thing. Type them in. 3x plus 5. Hit enter. Tab. X squared plus 5x plus 2. Hit enter. Alright, so on this one, it's kind of hard to see this guy up here. And there is one on your test where you're going to have to zoom out. You just go to Menu, Zoom, Window Zoom. And we're going to do Zoom Out. And then you get that little magnifying glass. You just click it once. It'll zoom out. Don't click it too many times. And so now you can see your 2 intersection points a little bit better. And then do the same thing. Menu, analyze, intersection. Highlight the first one till it pops up, 1, 8. And then we're going to do the same thing, analyze, intersection. Highlight the other one until it pops up, -3, -4. So a lot of calculator work on those two problems. Not a whole lot of math though.
Ooh, that's big. I don't know.
All right. So we are now up to 2, 4, 6, 7. I've done 7 of the problems on the test. 2, 4, 6, 7. So 7 of the problems are coming from the front. Flip it over to the back. For 11 and 12, I did not put those on the test, so we're just going to skip over them, make the video a little bit shorter. Drop down here to this other section though, because you are going to have 3. All right, you're going to have 3 of the inequalities, by the algebra inequalities. All right, now number 13. So number 13, you only have 2 terms, so you're not going to be using the X method. You are going to be taking a GCF out. So a lot of times when you get stuck, it's because it has a GCF. You can divide both of these guys by a -2, and they also both have an X. So we're going to take a -2x out. When I take -2x out of -2x squared, I am just left with x, because the -2 came out, I had x squared, so I'm just left with an x. -6 divided by -2 is a +3, and I took the x out, so I don't have anything anymore. Once you've factored, you set your factors equal to 0. So -2x equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0. Most of you could probably do this one in your head. X equals -3. Over here, though, to get rid of the -2, you divide by -2, divide by -2, and so x equals 0. Right. So 0 and -3 are my 2 solutions. I don't have number line on my review, and you also don't have a number line on your test, so you're going to have to draw them in yourself. You're going to have to do a number line to figure out where your inequalities go. Which is going to come first, -3 or 0? -3, good. And open circle or closed circle? Closed. All right, since 0 is one of my solutions, what number am I going to use as my test point? 1, which is right here. All right, so I'm going to plug 1 in here. -2, 1 squared, minus 6 times 1, less than or equal to 0. All right, and so when you plug 1 in there, you get -8. -2 minus 6, -8. And so, is -8 less than or equal to 0? Yes. So 1 works, right? So you are going to shade toward your test point. Since your test point works, we're going to shade toward our test point because we know that's the solution. So we're going to shade out.
We have 2 different ones, right?
Yes. And so because you have 2 different answers, you're going to have 2 separate inequalities. X, -3, X, 0. This arrow is going to the left. It's using the values less than -3. So less than or equal to -3. And when in doubt, follow your arrow. All right? Your arrows match up. Over here, this arrow is going bigger than 0, so greater than or equal to. Same thing. When in doubt, follow your arrows. They match up. You do need to know how to graph for the test and do the solution set. So both of those are going to be on the test. Okay, jump up to number 14. This guy here is a difference of squares. So I have x plus 6, x minus 6. Gotta recognize your squares. So your 2 solutions are -6 and +6. Draw your number line. You have open circles. And now on this guy, I don't have 0 as one of my solutions. So 0 is going to always be the easiest test point. So when I plug this in, 0 minus 36 is less than 0. Is negative 36 less than 0?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So your test point works. So we're going to shade inside toward our test point. So test point's in the middle. And because you just have that middle chunk, the one middle chunk, your solution set is just going to be one inequality, and you are going from negative 6 to 6. All right, 15, you got the 3 terms. We're going to factor this with the x method. What two numbers multiply to give you 15, but add to give you negative 8? Negative 3 and negative 5, so x minus 5, x minus 3. So our solutions are 5 and 3. Once again, we're going to draw our number line, 3 and then 5. Where's 0 on my number line?
The right column.
Yep, over here. And when you plug 0 in here, you get 0 minus 0 plus 15. So you just get 15 is less than or equal to 0. Which is wrong, right? So we don't want to shade toward the 0. We're going to shade away from it. So we're going to shade the insides. Oh, I forgot my circles. So once again, middle chunk. So 3 less than or equal to x, less than or equal to 5. All right, so you're going to have 3 of those on the test, which means we only have one more question really on the test to do, which are these word problems here. So the last thing are the word problems. I didn't put any x-intercepts on the test, so last thing are the word problems. Let's do those and then we'll be done. Now, the word problem one on your test, it is a word problem, but it is very similar to these guys on the front, all right, where you're going to be given 2 equations. You just got to graph it and find the intercept. I think this first word problem, let's read it. It says, Erin and her friends launch a rocket from ground level vertically into the air with an initial velocity of 80 feet per second. The height of the rocket after t seconds is given by this function. How long will it take the rocket to reach a height of 78 feet before it reaches its maximum height? Round to the nearest hundredths of a second. So, we are going to plug in 78 for height. So 78 equals negative 16 t squared plus 80t. And if I want to solve for this, I have to get everything to one side. And so this is the function that you are going to type into f of x. Now you can't type t in though. Hi, Jordan. You have to type x in. So negative 16 x squared plus 80x minus 78. And so we are going to find the solutions. Which solutions? Zeros, roots, x-intercepts, they all mean the same thing. So we're going to find the solutions by finding the zeros. And so 1.33 is one of them, and 3.67 is the other. Number 19, suppose you throw a ball straight up from the ground with a velocity of 40 feet per second. As the ball moves upward, gravity slows it down. Eventually, the ball will begin to fall back to the ground. The height h of the ball after t seconds is given by the quadratic function, or right here. For how many seconds is the ball in the air before it reaches a height of 10 feet on the descent round to the nearest hundredths of a second. So, you gotta draw a graph here. You throw a ball straight up, and it reaches up to the height, and then it begins falling back down. And we want to know how long it's going to take it to reach 10 feet. Does that make sense? So I don't care about the first 10 feet it reaches. I care about the second 10 feet. And it's asking me for how many seconds. So you are actually finding the x value here. All right, so kind of same thing as last time. We're going to plug 10 feet in. Negative 16t squared plus 40t. You got to move everything to one side. This is what you're plugging into f of x. So negative 16x squared plus 40x minus 10. All right, so we're hitting 10 feet here and here. But remember, I only care about the second one because I want to know when it's coming down, how long it takes to reach 10 feet. So, analyze your graph. 0. And 2.22 seconds.
But you type in another f of x, which is 10 feet.
Yeah, well, you plug 10 in for the h. And so you moved everything to one side, and so this is the function that you type in to get the solutions. I do believe the one on your test is actually a lot simpler than this, though. I gave you 2 functions. You just got to find the intersection. So I think the one on the test is a lot easier than that. But it's just interpreting the word problem.